I tell the story all the time that the reason why I made it to the NFL the way I did when I did was because of you. I tell this story. It was never confirmed by you. That you were the reason why I was drafted to the Denver Broncos. Right? Had a visit with the Houston Texans. You sat me down. We watched film. I was supposed to go back to Orlando, and walking out of your office, I get a call from my agent. He said, "Now you're going to Denver." Right? A year later, I get drafted by the Denver Broncos. Well, months later, I get drafted by the Denver Broncos. Then a year later, I'm on the field, and your pops was like, "Yeah, Kyle called me about you." And I put two and two together, and I just ran with it. So what's the facts?
Oh, it's stronger than you even know, because you were my official first draft pick, and I was 26 years old. I was a receiver coach, and I was at Houston, and I put so much time into that group of guys. Greg Jennings was a big receiver from that year in the second round. I had you right there in the second round, and you were the guy that I was dying for. And they tried to give you to the tight ends because of how big you were.
That's right.
And then that's why I took it as like my own project. That I noticed you had one All-Star game, and it wasn't the Senior Bowl; it was a smaller one. And I just watched the way you vacuumed the ball and how explosive you were. You're 40. This dude's not a tight end. And the more I watched you, I started to believe you were going to be like the next Terrell Owens. And I started pumping you up in the building. Then I really got pumped up because I remember your junior year, like your third game, all the safeties got hurt, and you went to your coach that week and like, "Hey, let me play safety."
Damn, you know all of that?
And then at the end of the year, you ended up leading the team in tackles. So I'm like, not only is this dude wired to play receiver, but he can mess somebody up too. And look at him, like this dude's gonna kill people. So anyways, we're going through the draft. And the first day, the Broncos, I think they drafted Darius Watts in the second round. And he was a quick, fast guy. And I was so pissed. Yeah, from Marshall.
Yep.
And we weren't going to draft a receiver. And I was sitting there in my office the next day, like just fuming that the Broncos didn't take you, fuming that we weren't going to take a wideout because you were still sitting there in the fourth round. And I called my dad, and I'm going off on him like a cocky 26-year-old and telling him like, "Dad, why didn't you draft Brandon?" And he's trying to tell me what Darius is going to do, and I'm like, "Oh man, you messed up." And he's like, "Well, you're going to be real mad because we're going to draft this other receiver here in about an hour." And I was like,
Hickson.
"Yes."
Yep.
And I go, "You're what?" And he's like, "Yeah, Kyle, sorry." And I'm like, "Dad, I'm telling you, I've put so much more time in this to any of you guys, and you guys are dead wrong. You better draft Brandon." He goes, "Sorry, Kyle." He hangs up. I'm sitting there fuming. I'm just watching the draft in the office, and then they took you.
Yeah.
And then I called him out. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I got off. You were pretty damn convincing." And so like I was so pumped that was the first time my dad actually listened to me in that way.
Right.
And I was like, "Why did you?" And he was like, "Well, you were right. You did look at it a lot longer than I did." Right. And I felt you on that. And man, after the first OTAs, he called me. He's like, "I think we have Jerry Rice." I went right to Kubiak. I went to Charlie Cassidy. I'm like, "I told you guys they got Jerry. You should have listened."
I love it.